Alright guys, here's that video I said I would post for you. This is a word problem that actually comes right out of lesson 2.5 on page 64. This is a word problem that involves absolute value. So the question goes this way. The members of a book club agree to read within 10 pages of the last page of the next chapter. And the chapter ends on page 203. That's the question. And then it asks you to write an absolute value equation that represents that represents the minimum and maximum page numbers where members could stop reading. All right, we talked about this in class today. One way to think about absolute value, we're going to go ahead and put our variable here. This is the page numbers we're trying to figure out. The number of x here is going to represent either the minimum or the maximum page number. So this equation is going to help us figure out that minimum and maximum value. If you recall from when we were writing an absolute value equation from a graph, we said, well, we want to subtract the midpoint and make it equal to the distance. In this word problem, the midpoint can be thought of as the target. The midpoint can be thought of as the target. Or it can also be thought of as the goal, right? In the word problem. And we're going to let that equal that tolerance. And another way to think about tolerance is sort of that allowable wiggle room, right? The allowable, for lack of a better fancy word for it, the allowable wiggle room that represents that situation. All right, so we're going to subtract the target and we're going to make it equal to the tolerance. So in this situation, the members agree to read within 10 pages of the last page of the next chapter. And the target here, the last page of the next chapter, is page 203. So that, page 203, that's the goal, right? So we're going to go ahead and say x minus 203, our page number, if we subtract 203 from the page number, this is for the max or min, we're going to get that allowable wiggle room within 10 pages. So that equals 10. That is the absolute value equation that represents this word problem. Now we could go ahead and solve it, by the way. We could say x minus 203 equals positive 10. And we could say x minus 203 equals negative 10, right? And then if we added 203 to both of those, we're going to get x equals 213, and that's the maximum page number that the book members would agree to. And if we come over here, if we add 203 and we add 203, what are we going to get? We're going to get x equals 193, and that's the minimum. Max and min.